Hi everyone, my name is Ifelu and welcome to my channel. Today is going to be our second video of session for Flutter development, and I hope you've watched my first video session where I'm introducing us to Flutter setting up, and then we started our task or our project which we're going to be using for learning during this sessions. So I hope you've seen that. If you have not, you can just check the link in my description below. It is important that you start from the very basics so that you can understand the progress and the process we're trying to go through. Okay, so today essentially we're going to be looking at screens or pages and navigations. That is how to create more screens. If you can see on my screen already, we already started the project last time out in my last video where we initiated the task management and to-do list project with from this UI. So we looked at bringing this screen and then the text, and of course we've not done the front end though, but we just did basics of this, and then we didn't add this icon. So we'll get into some of that today, and then essentially we'll look at how to move from screen 1 to screen 2, and then how to create screen 2 as well. So let's get started. Okay, so of course the screen or the UI I'm using is actually free. I got that on Figma and it was listed by NASA. So I needed to mention that. So it's quite easy to create a screen, or it's quite easy to create a page as much as you want. Of course, your project structure might be different. This time I've not really looked into to or in depthly into the screen, or sorry, the project structure itself. So like on a norm, if we're going to create a project structure, so we're going to have things like we're going to create folders under the library. Don't forget the library. From my last video I explained that the library is where all the codes in terms of your project are for mobile, and then you would see iOS and the likes. They are specifically for platform based preferences or platform based settings. So I can create different folders. Like I can create the utility folder. You can see it already has an automatic icon on VS Code, because of course they know that these are essential folders that we create for project structures. We can create models, right? All this will get into them one after the other, but right now we're just working on screens. So new file, new folder rather, sorry, not the new file. So I'm just creating new folder, screens, new folder screens. So we have that, and then we can even say pages. I think pages should have an icon. New folder pages. Yeah, pages would have an icon. So let's not use this. We can use pages, and then we can use there are also folders like services. Yeah, so they all have different functions anyways. They all have different functions based on what we're doing. Pages, of course, for page. Model for the, you might not understand that at this stage of development, but models are for defining how your data structure is, and then services are like when you're making API calls and the likes, and then utilities are probably if you want to specify things like you want to probably build a, but not a button, but say button would be a widget. So you can create another folder for widgets. So you want to create like something that handles a function, but it is not part of a service, right? So you can put those ones in utilities, and then like quite a number of stuffs we can do based on project structure. But we're concerned about pages for now, screens for now. So also to make your code like look nice and clean, it's also good that for everything we're trying to do, we are creating folders, or we are kind of like putting them in categories. Do you understand? So even for pages, I can't just start creating home page, details page and the like. So I can do things like, okay, I can create a new folder or under the pages, and then call it authentication. That is if we're having things like login, registration, I can create a folder authentication, which we are not doing yet. I can also create a new folder, home page, like that. Under all my pages, you can see I can create a home page. Under pages as well, I can create, say, profile. So every page within my app is having a folder, And then if I need to do anything in future, I can just go to that folder, and I know that that is where I would find or I'll find things concerning that project. Of course, there are some things we call reusable components as well. So when it comes to reusable components, something like maybe a button, maybe your top navigation bar and the likes, those ones may not fall under any of these. Of course, there's time when you have to specify different ones for different, like navigation bar for different pages, or different top bar for different pages. So in those cases, of course, you design based on preferences. But if you probably need a particular component that is used in so many screen, then you can just make them a common widget where you just create it outside, right outside this whole folder, and then you're able to use them within all this folder by just importing them in place. But we're not looking at all those things yet. We're just going to be focusing on the screens now, how to navigate from one screen to another, and then how to create a page. So first is, like I said, it is quite easy to create any page. It's quite easy to create any page because what you just need is a screen that carries the that end, like the that extension. So we can just create a screen. Let's go to let's just take this as intro page. Okay, let's do this as intro page. So I can create another folder and say intro. It can be splash screen, but it's not really splash. So let's do intro or welcome. Let's just do intro. So under intro, right, we can then create this particular page. So this particular page at the moment, because we started our project, I just coded it, or I placed the code in the main.dat file, which is not proper. We are supposed to make our main.dat file very free of anything, and then import every other pages through that route. Do you understand? So I'm going to create an intro page and just say intro.dat. So under intro.dat, right, this is a page now that I can access from anywhere within my app, but I'm here to make this a full Flutter page. So for every Flutter page, or for every Flutter screen you're trying to create, there's an important file that you have to import, which is the material app. So the UI or the general Flutter UI is done by material. So we have to import that. So I'll just do, if you're using VS Code, it might be quite easy. So I'll just do import. This is very important, else you are not ready. Import material. So when I do import material, you see that my package Flutter comes in place. So I can do import material, then close the column, right? So you have that. The reason why you're seeing the underline in blue, if it's red, it means that that's an error. But when your underlining is in blue, or your highlight is in blue, means that you have not used that particular widget or that particular import. It says unused import. That's why you're seeing it in blue. So next thing to do is, for a page in Flutter, we have two types of pages. We have a stateful page and we have a stateless page. A stateful page and a stateless page. So when we say a page is stateless, state means you want dynamic data within an app. Like what is, like, the status of an app changes per time. That is like the state you're trying to check. That's what state is actually. So are you building a page that you want to change data dynamically within that same screen, or you are building a page where the data is just static all through? Do you understand? So take, for instance, I'm building like an intro page right now. It is essentially a stateless widget because I'm not doing anything, right? But if I'm doing an action based on start, like if I'm doing an action based on clicking a button, I will just design it as a stateless page, right? But if I'm designing an intro page where, like a splash screen, where I just want it to stay on my screen for like 5 seconds or 10 seconds, that page has to be stateful. Means that that page has to check for the time elapse of 5 seconds, and after 5 seconds that page would move to the next screen. I hope you understand that. So for a stateless screen, there's not going to be change on that data, except instances where user clicks a button to go to another page. not a button to change content on that page, because a button would also not change content on that page because it is not loading statefully. Do you understand? But for a stateless widget, it would only take data, like it will only display static data within your screen. Do you understand? For a stateful widget, you can change data dynamically whilst on that same screen. So for this particular one, we really do not need any data changing. There's no animation whatsoever. So we'll leave it at stateful widget. Stateless widget. So I can just do stateless. So you can see it already. So Flutter gives me the option of either of the two, whether it's stateful or stateless widget. So I can just create a stateless widget. So what happens here right now is every widget has to be named. Everything on Flutter is about widgets, right? For screens and interactions. So every widget has to be named. So this my screen now, I can call it introduction screen. Right? Just going to change that to small letter. So I can call it introduction screen. So once I save, I can just change this to container or scaffold. Let's just go to the right thing. So let's just change this to scaffold. So under scaffold, there are quite a number of properties under scaffold, but essentially because of this particular project that we're working on, or for the learning sake, we're not going to be taking too much. You can have things like app bar. So I'll just look at those ones for us briefly. So for app bar, we would have this, right? So app bar is the top section of your app. So you see some app, you see title like Facebook tab title and all those things. Those are app bars, right? Next, we're going to be looking at within a scaffold. The scaffold is the whole screen itself. You have body, right? So body can then be what you want it to be. So in our context here, body is going to be like a column. So I'm going to use a column, and then I'll explain something to us later in terms of this, because I explained last time that column is for vertical arrangement of data, whilst row is for horizontal arrangement of data or of widgets, whichever one, right? So, but in cases where you have an exhaustive list or inexhaustive list rather, a list where it is longer than your screen, if you continue maintaining a column, the screen would show you an overflow error. We're going to get to that yet in a moment, but let's just leave it like that. So these are the two essential things for now. Of course, you can have background color as well. So let's just do background color, right? So let's just do colors dot. In Flutter, to call a color within Flutter, you can just use colors dot. Let's just use any of this one, showing number, right? So we have colors dot amber, but this screen we can't access it now. So now, based on Flutter principle, we have created a screen, but don't forget this screen is a stateless screen. Means that we can't change anything within this screen except move to another page. The data here will remain static. So let's go to our main screen back now. So we are going to edit this screen, right, back to what it's supposed to be, right? So I'm going to take out this. Yeah, so this is what we actually have. We have a stateful widget before. I just created that out of. So now, under material app, home will now change to this my intro screen. So now I'm going to just change this and say introduction. So once I'm trying to type that to give me okay, it's not giving me the option though, but introduction screen. So once I do that, I just try to highlight it, and then it gives me a quick fix, import. Do you understand? Or normally you can just come and import that particular screen here, but it's supposed to give me an IntelliSense for that. So this my screen is, I've changed my home under material app in my entry point. So what happens is, like I said, you have to know that for every app, the entry point is your main.dat file. And that's why we have to leave it free of so many scripting or coding. Just put, essentially, if you are using page route, just put your route. Then if you are using navigator, just put your main file as your home. So that's what we have done in this place. So our main entry point to our app is main.dat, but we want to show the first screen as introduction screen. So it is no longer this script that we wrote beneath the, so we are going to remove this screen, but before that we have to just see what that looks like. So if I do a save now, you can see my screen has changed because my home screen is now my introduction screen. So because of the color we have set, right, if I decide to change this color to dot white, same thing applies. Do you understand? So now we have created a screen, but we have not navigated from a screen to another screen. What we have just done is to change the home or the first screen of our app, right? So next thing to do right now is we want to move this script, the one we had before for that screen, to, I'll just copy it out. I just copy the whole scaffold, right? And then delete this from my main.dat file, so that my main.dat file is as simple as, of course there are some configurations we do on this when in terms of Firebase and the likes, but we are not at that level yet. So I'll return my intro. I don't need an app bar for this, but I'll just show us in a while what an app bar looks like. Okay, so take for instance, for an app bar, let me just do title. So for you to add a title, you have to use a text widget. This is a text widget. Just do text, right, and then put title, task app. So it's underlining because at the moment I'm using a constant value, so I can just do a const. So once I save that, okay, so you can see my task app. So in case you are trying to build an app and you want to add stuff like this, you can use an app bar for that, but I don't need any of those now. So I'll just paste what I've copied from our previous screen. Yes, so this is now our new intro page. If you want to see how we came about this screen, the image imports, the file and everything, please see my first video on this series, which is getting started and setting up for Flutter development. So we have this at the moment, right? So this is screen 1. So now, based on our UI, our screen 2 is this, right? This is our screen 2. So we need to also design this screen. But before that, we need to also create a screen. So now let's say, okay, let me minimize this, whether it is the right thing to do, whether that's the next screen to go to. I want to be sure that's the next screen to go to. Add screen. Our next screen should be an home page, not that add project. So I'll use this. Yes, so this should be our next screen. So this should be our next screen. You can see we have the bottom navigation, we have the plus button for, and then we have this cards, then we have the text and all those things. So we're going to get onto this one after the other. So how does it work? Next thing to do is to create another page. So intro is not the next page, and so the next page will be our own page, right? So we've handled intro. So I'm going to create a new page. I'm still going to talk about the different navigation type, but first let's work on creating a new page. So under home page folder now, I'm going to create a page and say home page dot that, right? So it can be home screen, it can be landing screen, whichever you choose. Again, like I said, first thing to do is import Flutter material. So I'll do Flutter / material. Yeah. So close that. For this case, because it is my own page, of course, there will be dynamic data at several points within the app. So I'm going to do a stateful widget instead. So for a stateful widget, you can see there are two. For stateless widget, you can see it's just one widget direct. But for this, you'll see you have the widget itself and then you have the state itself. So we're going to name this home page. There are quite thousands of ways you can get all these things done, but this is, the proper way I think everyone should learn from. So for this as well, I'm just going to create a scaffold. So to return scaffold, I'm going to do a body. So under body, I'm just going to do a sender, sender for now. And then under for every widget, you can give a child, right? So that is like the next thing. So for the child, I'm going to give a column. then children. So for elements like, or for widgets like column, row, they are widgets that take multiple children. That is why they are not, their own property name is children and not child. So when you are working, know that when you get to widgets like column, wrap, and then like list view and the likes, list view would even be a builder. So you have stuff like children and the likes. So, but we're not going there yet. We're just creating a new screen. So we can just give our background color as well for this. Let's see. I wanted to, so that we know when the screen changes, colors dot. Sorry, it's supposed to be small o. Colors dot black. Okay, so we have this, right? So at the moment, this button is not functional. It's not functional. So what we are going to do now is to work on our page navigation. So like I said, there are three ways to navigate in Flutter. You either do the navigator using navigator.push or .push replacement or .pop. .pop is to go back, but everything requires a context. It means that you are carrying like the scaffold from an existing screen, and then you can do it through page navigation or through page routes, either like when you name your routes all in the main .dat folder, which is the entry point. You can give names to your routes. Like if you see this code, you have home page like our normal backslash, and then you can see second for second screen, enter like that. And then you have the last one, which is a bit not for this level, so you can read more on that using this reading on Go Router package. We use that for deep linking. So take for instance, when Facebook or Twitter sends you a notification and then you see a link inside of it, when you click on that link just automatically opens your app and then takes you to a particular screen. Those are done essentially with kind of routers. Okay, so let's look at the first one. So the first one is to do a navigator of context.push. So what do we do? So let's go back to our intro page right now. So we want to go from this screen to our home page screen. So that will be an action on button click. So at the moment, there are two different statements. You will see in some buttons, for elevated button, you'll see on pressed, and then for some actions like gesture detector or inkwell, you will see on tap. So for gesture detector, it's just like when you probably want to design a custom, maybe for text or something, you want to ensure that when the user taps on that screen or on that particular widget, you want to perform an action. So you use gesture widget for that if it's not creatable using a button. So for this case now, we're going to do navigation with the navigator. So we're going to just do navigator dot of context, right, dot push, right? So it tells you which routes. So what we're using here is a material app. So we are going to use material page routes. So you can see it already. It's giving me my intelligence material page route, and then builder. Builder is like which screen do you want to go to? How do you want to access that screen? So like I said, you have to carry your context across. Your context is like the property of the file or the property of the screen. So we're going to carry context again and say context go to const, and name of our page is home page. So let's see. So next thing we need to do is to import this screen. So I'm going to just click on it and then just do import. Yes. So this is giving an error because I need to close it with a colon. So with that, I have actually created a route to navigate to another screen using navigator dot of context dot push. So if I click on this button now, bam, it takes me to another screen. That's how beautiful it is. So I can change the color here so that you see that it's moving to another screen. Yeah, so you can see, so we are already in a new screen, which is our home page screen. But at the moment, we've not done any design yet. So one thing we can also do is we can go back from this page to another page. So, or to our previous page rather, sorry. So to do that, I showed you an app bar the other time. Of course, we'll still tweak this app bar a bit, but for the sake of this session, I'm just going to show us this app bar. So when you have an app bar, you can do leading. So leading here is a case where you want to add like a function for either back button or the likes, right? So I can do leading, or let's just do title first. Let's do title because normally it's supposed to display back button if I'm coming from another screen automatically. So let's just do a title text. So that's one thing about Flutter. If you're coming from a previous screen, automatically this screen will carry a back button. So let's just do home page. You are still going to tweak this, yes. So that's how it works. Automatic is because there was no color before, so or there was no app bar rather. Automatically, if you are using this, it will automatically have a back button. That's why it's called leading. So in a case where I now say I don't want leading, so what I can do is leading false. Or sorry, it's supposed to be automatically imply leading. I mean, automatically imply leading. Yes, I'll now do false. Then it takes away that button for me, so you can see that my button has left my screen. That's the function of this. So in a case where you are trying to design, because automatically it will come with a back button if you are moving from one screen to another. If you don't want that, all you just need to do is automatically imply leading. Or if you want something else as part of that, or probably another button design, then you can do that. Because in our app that we're trying to build, we would actually have to use another button design. In fact, we don't even need this. But in cases like where we need a back button, you'll see that the icon is pretty different. Okay, so sorry about the messages popping. Okay, so now the next thing is to try the second like option, which is using router. So to do route, we're going to have to go back into our main screen under material app and then design or like mention or state the route that we want our app to have. So in this case now, we're going to be using routes. Take for instance. Okay, by the way, this debug show check mode banner is just for debug flagging. If I remove it now, you see debug flagging on my app, but of course that's just, I don't like it though. So now here, so at this point we used home, but we can change that by using routes. So when we bring routes and initial route into play, so let's first design the route. To design a route, I said it here. So using the route method, to design a route, we are going to be giving name to our screens. This is more tedious and I don't really use this because for every screen that I create, I then have to be coming back to my main dot whatever file, my main dot dat file to create or to assign this name to every screen. It's useful for some cases, but not really my thing. But I'll have to show you because it's actually part of what Flutter for that SVG to work, we need to install something called SVG picture. So Flutter SVG, I think. So we'll go under our dependencies and then say Flutter SVG is scalable vector graphics. It is good because so that your images will not be pixelated or your icons will not be pixelated. That's why. So Flutter SVG. So I'm just going to use the latest one. I'm using VS Code. That's why I can. Of course, I'm first supposed to go to pub.dev and just check the name of this, but I actually do not need that right now. So I just want to use the IntelliSense of VS Code to get it. Or it's installing on the build so you can see that within my app. So whilst that is happening, let's just get other things done. Like the next thing to look at is, sorry, just trying to go back to this screen. So we are going to look at the name of the user and all those things. So the next thing is hello. So let's just do a text. Hello. So for us to style this text, you are going to put a style attribute and then text style. So for text style, you can then define the color and all those things. But first, we are just going to look at font size for now. So let's just give this font size 14. Font weight is not bold, so let's leave it as it is. So next is another text. I'll just copy this one and paste it. Another text, I'll just say, okay, La Viva, whatever, Livia Vaccaro. Yeah. So we have all those information on display now. Can you see? So right now, we have that name, we have the image, and then we have the greeting. But there's a way it is arranged in this UI. So for us to achieve that, what we will do is we can see that this image is standing alone and then this is standing under themselves. So first, this has to become a column because it is arranged horizontally. So once you make them a column, they come under themselves, right? Next, you can see the text, the name, and the hello is standing center-wise. So next thing to do is to do, in a column, your main axis is the vertical side, and then your cross axis is the horizontal side, right? But in a row, your main axis is the horizontal, your cross axis is the vertical. So at this point, something is wrong here. It's centered, the text is centered, or the font or content of the column is centered, but we need it to come to this side. So this side in this case is cross axis of the column. So I'm going to do cross axis alignment and then do cross axis dot start alignment dot start. Start means the beginning, that's the right hand side. So if I do that, can you see? So next thing to do is this image, this is not the size we want. So for me to do that, I'm going to put this image in a clip rect. So I'll just do a center, though I'm just using that for getting. So I'll do clip RR rect, and then I'm going to specify the border radius because I want to, because you know this image that we imported is not this circular image, it's actually an image, we just screenshotted it. So I'm going to do border radius of circular, and then most times I just use 100 because 100 will definitely clear everything. So this is actually wanting me to put a constant front, that's why it's showing the underline. Okay, so I can do the const in front of this one. Yeah. Okay, so it's showing me that, and then for our image, you can just specify with, let's just do 100. Let's see how it looks. Is that 100? Let's do 60. Okay, I think 60 is fine. Okay, so of course it's showing some issues with that. So what we can do is to, based on this, we can just pad. You can just add padding to the column. So padding is like we want to give space around the screen. So I'm just going to do all, and I'm going to say state 20. So everything will collapse in between here. So I can have space on the left and on the right. And then in between my app, I can just use a sized box to define, so that I don't eat into that screen. Because at the moment we are not doing ABBA yet, so I can just give a height of 30. This actually varies with iOS and Apple, sorry, and Android. So I'll just do const. Yeah. So right now, what we have is this name. So I can just do some text format. Okay, here I want to add a width here so that there's spacing in between the name and the image. So I'll just do width instead. So do a width of 10, say 10. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah. So for font size, we can just increase this one to 16. Looks like it needs a bigger one. And then this one to 20. So let's see what happens. Yeah. So for the Lavira something, we'll change the weight and then do font weight. That is to make it bold, dot bold. Dot bold. Yeah. So you have these two. So next thing to do now is we want our notification button. So on this row, I told you that you have row 1, row 2. So now we have had a row for this. So if I decide to put in this row now, if I decide to add the SVG picture dot assets, so I need to import this as well. Yes. Dot assets. So I'll just do assets slash images slash icons slash notification dot png. Let's see, does it bring it? Not sure why that's taking a while. Oh, sorry, SVG, not PNG. Yes, so you can see the button has been imported, but this is not where we want the button to be. So to achieve that, we have to actually put this in another row. So I'm just going to put this one in its own row. Yes, so that way they are splitted. So for me to now achieve this, all I'm just going to do is under the main row, I'm now going to say the main axis, I'm going to space them between. So I'm going to do main axis alignment dot space between. So it splits them. That's beautiful. So you can see at the moment, of course, the blue dots to show that there's an active notification. We'll get to that sometime later. But at the moment, we have these two screens in place, right? So don't forget, we still have our previous screen. So we have this. And the next thing to do is this particular dashboard effect. So for us to achieve that, we are out of that now. So this kind of like is our own designed or specific design app bar. So we are going to just go on to the next screen now, or next part of the screen. So which is this. So next thing to do is we are going to create a container. This is obviously a container with border radius, and then you have the widgets in between them. So what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to quickly create all these ones down. So let's just go to I don't know how much I'm giving that though. Let's create a container. So under the container, I'm going to do, I can't just give color to this container. I have to specify the decoration instead, because that's the radius, border radius actually. So you do box border. So you do box border and then you say color. I can't remember the particular color we used though. Sorry, box decoration. Sorry, I'm using box border. Box decoration. And then you do color. I'm just going to check the color I used for that button. So, yeah. I'm not sure this is it though, but let's just make do with what we have here first. We'll get to color specification under constants later. So let's see. Yeah, it's not showing yet because we've not specified the height and width of the. So let's do height. This is looking like some maybe 240. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah. Okay, I think 240 is too much. Let's do 200. I think that's still pretty much. Yeah. So let's leave it at 180. So let's still wants us to add the const. So next is border radius. That's looking like some 25 or 20. So let's do border radius dot circular. So let's do some 25. Let's see how it looks like. Are you giving me this? Okay, doesn't want cost for this. So let's do this. Yeah. They want to cost for color. So let's do this. I think this is pretty fine. Let's increase our height back to 200. Yeah. So now we just want this text. So like the same flow here, you can see that we have 3 items. We have this in a column. We have this in a row with this, and then this also in a row at the extreme top right. So what we can just do is, let's just create the text to your today's task. In order to be fast, I'll just be copying some of these things. So in your container, then next thing to do is to add a child, right? It's good to add a child. So the child will then be a row. How do I determine if the child is a row? Because you can see the item is aligned vertically, or sorry, horizontally, so, or arranged horizontally. So that's how I determine whether it's a row or not. So next is this, your task. I just write this. Your today's task is almost done. So you see an error here. It's important that you know why this is happening, because when you want to write something like this, which looks like a code itself, you have to use an escape sequence as part of your task. So you put this, so it escapes that for you. So let's add const. It wants to const as okay. Maybe we'll put it in the children major. So let's do this. So you can see, but this time I don't think is weighty that way. So let's remove this. Let's change font size to 14 or 16. Try to 18. Yeah, 18. And then next thing to do is change the color. So we're going to change the color to white. Sorry, I've not defined those colors here, so I wanted to do what I used to do normally. So colors the white. Yeah. So next thing is, I don't want the text to be touching the edge of my my container. So next thing to do is to add the padding. Container comes with padding itself, so you just do edging set dot all. Just give like a padding of like 10, such that you have little space. But although this padding looks much, so let's do like 20. So for this case, so that we won't hit too much into our page, so I will do a from left to bottom to get left, top, right, bottom. So that's what that means. So I can just do 10, 10, 10, 10. The reason I'm doing this is because so that I can change it in between. So I can change it. So from left, I can say 20. Right as well, I can say 20. Do you get? So that my top side is not too much. So you can see it has moved a bit. Right. So next thing to do is, this text is broken at some point, and I don't want us to use that. If you check my first video, you will see that I taught us how to do this, to break that text without having to go and be putting next thing on that, or break the text within the text itself. So I'll just do a sized box and then specify the width. Specify the width of my text. So I'll just do a media query. Media query is to get like some platform specific data of context dot size dot width. So I want it to be like 0.4%. Let's see what it looks like. So it won't want me to use a const if I'm using media query, so I have to take this out. Yeah, that's how it works. Because media query is not a constant, it changes per device, that's why. So yeah, exactly, I think we got it right. So with that, I think this font needs to be bigger a bit. So let's change it to 20. Yeah, and then let's change this to like 4.5 or 4.5 rather. Yeah. But this task almost done. Okay, there's no is there. Sorry, my own grammar is more than that. I just wanted us to have something nice. Okay, but it's actually looking more than what it should be, because this has to still come in place. So let's just drop it a bit. Let's do like, let's set it into 3. Let's put 3.5 for this. and then reduce the size to 18. Let's see if that works. 16. Yeah. So next thing to do is I'm going to create a button. So in order not to waste time as well, I'm just going to copy the button here. So copy this button from my intro page. I'm going to bring it here. But before that, I have to put this in a column. So size box. Column because these are in a column. They are not on the same line. So I just do size box. Size box. What's next? Let's see what happens. Yeah, the button is too big. So I want the button to be like 0.35 as well. Let's see. Yeah. So view task. That will be this doesn't have a function here, so I need to remove all this. And then this will be colors of white. Yeah. It's not really white per se, it has some level of I'm just trying to look for what I'm supposed to do next. Then this is carrying that other color. I'm supposed to look for this color actually, I'm just being lazy. But let's just put the color for this text so that it matches what is in our design view task. Yeah, so it's supposed to be view task. But this time is bold, so we're going to add some weights, font weights dot bold. It's pretty long session today, so maybe I'll just stop here after now once we're able to achieve this. Yeah, so we have that. So we have to increase this button width to like 4. Let's see whether it takes a year. So next thing I want to do is I want to split this down. So it looks like, to be honest, this actually requires 20 as well. Yeah. So next thing is our column that we put this text and this, we're going to just do a space in between for them. So it's also be main axis alignment, space between here, so that they split themselves here. So from top and right, I think I'll just want to do some from bottom. I'll just do 30, so it looks like what we're seeing. Yeah. So maybe this font will now increase a bit to 18. Let's do 4. No, let's just leave it as it is. But what I'm looking at is the fact that this will drop. So let's change this font size to maybe like 80. Yeah. And then let's change it width to 35 as well. Yeah. 60. Because considering that we will still have this graph in between, which we will not actually draw now because we need a tool for that. So this view tags, am I on track? It's looking like this font is particularly small. I'm not satisfied. So let's see. Yeah, let's just leave it at this though. Okay, so next thing is to do, let me just find a way to add these 3 dots on top and then we can move. So for that row, we're going to create another column outside this main parent column. So select this column, sorry. Right, so I'm just going to create container. Height, let's just do so 40 by width 60. Yeah, decoration, box decoration. color colors dot white. So what I do with this is with opacity. With opacity is to make it transparent, so I'll just do a 0.3. 0.3 is to make it less transparent, a bit more transparent. Right? If you go to like 0.9 to make it much more visible, right? So it says what? Sorry, my container is supposed to be within the children folder. So children curly brackets, yeah. So let's see what's happening. Yeah, so we have something like this. Let's make it more visible, like 0.2. Oh, sorry. Let's do 0.6 instead then. Okay. So it looks like our weight is more. Let's do this at 30, this at 40. Okay, so for now, I'm going to then take the main row in axis alignments as well. In axis alignment space in between. So we have this. Yeah. So that's something like that. I'm supposed to use an icon though, but I might probably not do that today. So I'll just, next is within that box decoration, I'll have to specify radius, border radius, dot circular. I was looking at something like 4. Let's see what 4 looks like. Okay, let's give it some 6. Okay, yeah, so we have something similar to what we're supposed to have. So next is, maybe I should drop this height down a bit to 180 as it were. Yeah. So we can have all those things, and then in the next sessions, we'll be looking at other things. Like, let me just add this to particular ones. So we have this. Sorry, I'm just trying to do one thing here. So next thing is under that container, I'm just going to add in progress. They're just titles though, or subheadings. All this will still come to play at some levels. So we're going to add some of this later, so that we'll know where we are supposed to be heading. So in progress, track, or task groups. Actually, with what I've shown us, we're supposed to be able to do this ourselves, but for time's sake, I would continue the next project. So now we're going to move all these. So I believe in your mind, you already know what we're supposed to do now. We're supposed to align this to the left. So for us to achieve that, it's actually a cross axis because we're using a column. So we'll do cross axis, then cross axis. You should be able to track your parents. Parent folder or file widget. So start, then it brings everything to the left. Can you see? So we have all this. So in our next set of, in my next video, we'll complete this and then see how to add this effect as well, these graphs and all those things. We'll put that in place. I hope you've learned so much today. Please, it's essential that you practice. So we talked about navigation, then we started designing the screen, how to add data from this screen to this screen. And then I'll in my next video I'll touch, I'm sure we'll complete this particular one. This particular one is actually a slider, so you can actually slide these screens and then see some other elements, like you can see 6 items, but it's in a row, and then you can see them in scrolls. And then for this is actually in vertical states, then you can also scroll them. So we'll work on all that, and then believe that before the end of that we should be able to get to a level where we are able to boast of being a pro. So thank you for staying tuned today. I hope you've learned one thing or the other. I would put this code up on my repository, and by next video I'm going to share the link to the repository. Thank you.